Good morning, everyone. My name is Liz Deepers and I'm hosting this webinar on behalf of Eracy. Thank you for joining us. We'll just give it a few seconds while everyone joins the room. All right, it's 11 o'clock. Let's get started. We're meeting today on the unceded sovereign lands of Aboriginal people. We acknowledge the traditional custodians and their enduring connection to its lands, waters and sky. I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. In solidarity, Eracy supports the Uluru Statement from the Heart and the need for truth-telling about the history and impact of colonisation. We treasure the rich and diverse cultures and customs of First Nations people. Valued knowledge holders, leaders and partners in creating the conditions for all our children to thrive. I'm joining you today from the beautiful Dharawal country and I encourage you all to acknowledge the country you're joining us from today in the chat. So during this webinar, your mics and cameras will remain off for the session, but you can add questions for our panelists via the Q&A in your control panel at the top of the Teams webinar window. You can post questions at any time. The webinar is being recorded and will be made available on our YouTube channel. In Australia, there are more than 235,000 young carers, although this number is expected to be much higher due to underreporting and non-identification. Young carers are people up to 25 years of age who provide unpaid care and support to family members who have a disability, mental illness, chronic condition, an alcohol or other drug issue, or who might be frail and aged. Often balancing schoolwork with caregiving duties, juggling household tasks with emotional support, and navigating complex healthcare systems, young carers are making many sacrifices in their everyday lives. The caring role can be stressful and isolating for anyone, let alone a young carer. So it's my pleasure to be joined today by Jessica Dallish, Shanelle Beazley and Tara Stevens from the Benevolent Society's Carers Gateway. They're going to be sharing with us through case studies and lived experience details about how we can identify, resource and support young carers. So over to you now, ladies.
Beautiful. Thank you, Liz. Just going to check. Can everybody see those screen shares?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So hi, good morning. My name is Jessica Dallish. And so I have a degree in criminology and criminal justice from the University of New South Wales. And I am the team leader of the Young Carer team within the Carer Gateway program at the Benevolent Society. Today, joining us as well, we have Tara Stevens.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tara. I have a diploma in community services and I've been supporting young people for the last few years through the Benevolent Society. For the last year and a half, I have been supporting our young carers. Today with us as well is Shanelle.
Hi, my name is Shanelle Beazley. I'm a proud Wellborn woman who spent the last several years working for Aboriginal community-controlled organisations in the community sector, NDIS and aged care. I continue to work passionately in working towards better outcomes and opportunities for the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities through my role as a Partnerships and Engagement Officer for Indigenous Development with Carer Gateway at the Benevolent Society. The Benevolent Society acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and their continuing connection to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to elders past and present.
Okay, so we define a young carer as someone who is under the age of 25, who looks after a family member or friend that could have a disability, medical or mental health condition, could be frail due to age, or who could have a substance or alcohol use disorder. So it's important to note that the young person does not need to be the sole or primary carer. So they may be in a situation where there is a primary carer, but the young carer themselves is still eligible for support. For some young people, the caring role might include providing personal care, such as helping with showering, mobility, medication, might be feeding. It might also be picking up extra chores at home, providing transport to medical appointments, offering financial or even emotional support. It really differs, so depending on that caring role circumstance. So, for example, it might look like a young carer that assists their younger sibling with autism to get dressed and ready for each school day. It's also important for us to highlight that they do not need to live with the care recipient to be eligible for support. So it might also be a young person who visits their elderly grandparents, brings them groceries on a weekly basis, takes them to doctor's appointments and medical sessions. The caring role can look really different for everybody. It's something that's truly diverse in nature and is unique to each circumstance. So you might be able to identify a young carer because they might be putting others' needs before their own. We know and we often hear that young carers struggle to make time for themselves amongst all the responsibilities they juggle. So this might be a young person you know that often cancels going to their own events because they have things at home that need to be looked after. Or maybe they're overly concerned about what is going on with their loved one when they do get that time for themselves. They might also be facing extra schooling or employment struggles. So for example, they might struggle to complete homework or meet assignment deadlines if the care recipient at home has additional needs that can cause distractions. You might already have someone that comes to mind from this who you think could be in a caring role. So Shanelle now is going to take us through some statistics to provide some more insight into exactly how many young carers there actually are.
Thanks, Jess. So our census data supports some of our common ideas and understanding of our young people in caring roles. In the last census, there were 391,300 young carers under the age of 25. So there were 1.2 million primary carers in Australia, and of these, 43.8% had a disability themselves. So in this census, 5.5 million Australians who had a disability, 4.8 of them, so that's 87%, had a limitation of at least one of the core activities of communication, mobility, self-care, and or schooling or employment restrictions. So as a proportion of the Australian population, that's 10% that had a schooling or employment restriction. So the largest portion of these statistics identify what we here at Carer Gateway know to be a challenge for our young carers, and the initiative focuses on supporting young carers with that focus on education and employment. So how we do this and the many young carer supports available, Tara will discuss with us.
Yeah, so Carer Gateway is a free short-term service of supports for carers while we help you navigate the long term. So the Carer Gateway website, as you can see on the screen, through that you have access to phone counselling, online peer support forums, an online self-guided coaching and skills course on things such as manual handling, dementia supports, and more. So it's a great online platform for our carers to have access to information, also about things like carers payments, how to apply for NDIS or My Aged Care, and more. It can be really helpful that it's all in one place, and we always recommend checking it out. Now I'm going to talk a little bit more about supports that you could receive from your local service provider. We're from the Benevolent Society, and we're the local service provider for a large part of Sydney. So the first thing I was going to talk about is generally emotional support. So our first emotional support is counselling. So you can access up to 6 one-hour sessions of emotional support, which is the carer speaking about their feelings around the caring role and getting that support around that. This can be really important for our young carers who might feel some frustration around their caring role or just feel like they don't have anyone to talk to about it. Another support is coaching. So that's also up to 6 one-hour sessions with a coach, and that really helps the carer guide through a goal that they've set themselves. So some of the young carers' goals could be anything. It could be from building confidence in social situations, setting healthy boundaries in the caring role, or even something like taking steps towards employment following high school graduation. Another support we have is emergency respite. So this is a very short-term service that's accessible to carers when they're experiencing something in their lives, leaving them unexpectedly unable to tend to the needs of their loved one. So this could be in an event of a sudden or unplanned situation, such as a broken bone, experiencing extreme care stress or becoming sick or injured. We can give Carer Gateway a call and we can see what support we can offer in the short term. Another support we have is our young carer peer support. So it's a place to give our young carers more time for themselves outside of that caring role, learn skills and connect with their peers. All throughout the year, on weekends, during the school holidays, we run activities for young carers as an opportunity for them to make new friends, meet people with similar lived experience as them, and just get a chance to do something a bit out of the ordinary that they might not always be able to do. So activities range from lots of things like rock climbing, surfing, horse riding, art classes, and visits to the zoo. We also run activities for young people who'd like to upskill. It gives them something to put on their resume as well. So we'll do things like barista courses, first aid courses, RSAs, RCGs, car maintenance workshops, and general life skills courses. We also offer some practical support through some packages. It's available for young carers. We understand that young carers can have really unique challenges, which we'll talk about later, but that's why the packages can be really tailored specifically to their needs. So accessing the package can assist them with their caring role, education, or employment journey. So the package can be used for tutoring, maybe some driving lessons, an educational course, as well as in-home respite for primary young carers. Eligibility for the package is based on an identified need within the caring role, education, or employment. And the need is established on the outcome of having a meaningful discussion with one of the coordinators like myself. I'm going to talk you through a little bit of an example of one of our young carers. We're going to call him Sam. So Sam came to us with quite a large caring role, and we could see the impact of that, especially through COVID, where he was doing online learning. He really struggled to have that one-on-one support, and he started lacking a lot of basic skills in his learning. He was also quite isolated because of his caring role, so he was really struggling to connect with peers. So the things that we put in place, one of the first things was tutoring. And some other things was he started coming to some of our peer support events, and he also received some coaching because he wanted to work on his confidence speaking in social situations. So for us, we really noticed that impact, and we also got the feedback from parents and him himself that his grades started jumping up and he had relearned all those basic skills and was back to the same level as his peers. We watched his confidence grow, and it was really lovely to see. And we also just got the feedback from his parents that he started getting invited to things in his local community. He was now reconnected with his peers and was getting invited to birthday parties and things that hadn't happened before. So Shanelle's now going to take us through a few more statistics and how they align with the practical supports that I've just gone through.
Yeah, so much like our young carers, Sam, commonly our young people are doing, an amazing job as young carers. And in our last census, of the 2.4 million people with a disability that were living in households and receiving informal assistance, 43% of them were receiving this assistance from their partner, and a massive 32.2% were receiving this assistance from their child. This is certainly not a shocking number for us here at Carer Gateway. We do know that we have a large number of young carers. And so the mentioned statistics, were for things or activities that were being received were things such as reading and writing tasks. That was 80% of those people were receiving assistance with reading and writing. Meal preparation was 78%, and transportation, another large number at 78%. So the mentioned stats align with the focus areas of supporting young carers that Tara just explained, including assistance applying for the Young Carer Bursary, which Tara will tell us about more.
Yeah, so the Young Carer Bursary is run by the Young Carers Network and Carers New South Wales, so not us, but applications normally have open from July to September every year. Currently, though, we're waiting on the Young Carer Network to advise on this year's open dates. But to be eligible to apply, you have to be a young carer aged 12 to 25 years old for the entire time you're receiving that bursary. You have to be an Australian citizen residing in Australia, be studying an approved course in Australia at a recognised high school, TAFE, university, or another registered institution. That's full-time or part-time study. Young carers are not eligible if they currently hold an advanced diploma or a bachelor's degree. So 1,592 young carers bursaries of $3,768 are on offer each year. So applications are not income tested and are assessed by an independent assessment panel. So the bursary can be used towards respite care, maybe school uniforms, laptop software, school equipment, school fees, emotional support, and extracurricular activities, just to name a few. So this can make, as you can imagine, a significant impact on the young carer's life. What we do to support this is two things. So the first thing is we hold information sessions about the bursary, how to apply, and where the young carers can attend that session and ask us additional questions. The other thing we do is supply a confirmation letter. This helps support their application. It's a really simple letter from us saying that they're registered with us and what support they receive through us. That can really help them secure the bursary. So now we're going to talk a little bit more again about the perspective of the young carer. So to start that, we are going to hear from one of our young carers, Elise.
My name's Elise and I am 10 years old. At my age, being a carer, it's pretty hard, but I'm growing up to learn more about it and how easy it can get. My sister's disability is cerebral palsy, where she cannot walk, talk, roll over, or get fed properly like other people do. I would usually start taking care of her when I was pretty young. Some of the ways that I help my sister is I change her buttons. So when she needs feeding, I would go out, get her pump, and I'll get sit up and do it. Sometimes I need help with that because I'm still sort of learning about it. I would change her nappy because she still wears nappy. That's the worst. I also help around the house, like sometimes cleaning up. It's very hard because of her disability. Otherwise, she could easily go off and do it herself. Also, I always need to do school and everything, so I need to do my homework. So that's why it can be extra challenging. Carry Gateway has really helped me to meet some new people, activities that have really made me feel better and more sort of relaxed. And they've really, really helped me over the past. Some of the challenges that I faced caring for my sister was I didn't get to go to some of my friends' house, or they made me come here because I wasn't able to. And that really wasn't fun for me, but the Carers Gateway really helped me to be able to do more activities. As long as you're happy and they're happy and everyone else is sort of happy, then that's what really makes it perfect.
That video makes me so emotional every time. I think we've seen so much growth in Elise while she's been within our program. And so the difference with Carer Gateway is that a lot of the team working within the program and the Benevolent Society, we come from that lived experience ourselves. So we really have that extra passion and understanding for supporting our carers. So I grew up as a young carer for my brother with mental health concerns, and I even accessed support for young carers myself growing up. So I really know the difference it can make in your life when you finally have some help of your own from people who actually understand what you're going through. So Tara was also a young carer growing up.
Yeah, so I was a young carer for my younger sister growing up who had a chronic and severe health condition. I spent a lot of time jumping in and doing things for her, but it was quite hard for me to understand that I had a caring role myself at the time because I was also unwell. I didn't feel like I was the same as other young carers because sometimes I would need someone to care for me as well. I didn't feel like I fit in the box perfectly of what a carer looks like, which meant I didn't reach out for support that could have been really helpful for me. I've now found working in this space, it's something I hear a lot. With young people, they often don't know that they're carers, especially if they have a disability or extra challenges themselves. So Jess is now going to speak about those extra challenges as well as the strengths about young carers.
Yeah, so because of that added responsibility they pick up, young carers often have a lot of extra strengths and gain skills that they develop. So we know that they often have amazing resilience and advocacy skills. However, no matter the level of responsibility, the caring role does have an impact on that young person's life, and it can bring along with it some extra challenges. So some of these include that they could make the young person time poor. We know already that often young people are busy regardless with schooling and time spent trying to figure out who they really are. But having extra responsibilities and tasks at home can make it challenging to get everything done, including homework and assignments. And it also impacts on their time for sleep or to have that emotional impact. So having that extra responsibility can be overwhelming at times for young carers, and it can contribute to stress and impact on their mental health. So it can really affect the development of their identity outside of that caring role. They might also not have as much access to one-on-one support from a parent around their educational needs, because the parents or caregivers may have a larger portion of their time occupied with the care recipient's needs, or the parent could be the care recipient themselves. So statistics show that in a standard classroom environment, a huge 1 in 10 students are in a caring role in some capacity. So we know that all of these are common for young carers to experience and contribute to one of the biggest issues that's consistently documented for young carers, which is staying in school to complete their education. This, of course, then impacts their ability to continue on with further study or gain employment. So these extra challenges are why our services for young carers are more flexible, and we really tailor them one-on-one based on the individual needs of the young person that we're supporting. So now Shanelle is going to speak on her time in her role as an Aboriginal partnership specialist and into some of those challenges that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander young carers specifically can face.
So it's an important part of my role is creating culturally safe pathways and supporting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander young carers. And for them to be able to gain access to the initiative, it's important for us to have mutual beneficial partnerships with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander organisations in community to develop a culturally responsive support. So by working collaboratively with community organisations to address some of the barriers to accessing Carer Gateway for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander families and our young carers, it's really important. So we work together to break down barriers, address stigmas and deliver a support that addresses the social and emotional wellbeing needs of our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander carers. So a common access barrier is not too dissimilar from everybody else, and it's identifying someone as a young carer. Some of the cultural barriers faced by our community are of a collective nature. Of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander families. It's seen as a community obligation to care for a loved one, be it a family member or a friend. Communities are remarkably close. But the past policies have affected families' trust in services, including the perceived impact that this may have on families' finances or the perceptions of their ability to care for their loved one. So these community partnerships are especially important to provide a cultural support to our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander carers. Our culturally diverse team here at Carer Gateway is inclusive of all community partners. We have similar partnerships and relationships with the LGBTQIA+ community and the CALD community. Carer Gateway is genuinely involved in supporting carers of all ages, from all communities, and understands and values the differences of our communities. At Carer Gateway, we genuinely aim to build and sustain these community relationships as they're vital to the carers that we all support. So the carer's journey is much like depicted in the slide. It's a very up and down journey, but by starting out by calling the 1-800 number and start this journey together. We do an intake together, so this will help us identify challenges through our carer star, which will allow us to support carers through referral and coordination of services, and then review how our carers and their journey is going. So the carer star tool, I especially like the carer star. It's really a difficult conversation for our carers. And this is where we have a chat to our carers about their needs. And this is quite foreign to our carers. So they can tell us all about the person that they care for, but they're not used to discussing information about themselves. So we speak about things such as work, school, whether they have time for themselves. And this really highlights their caring role and the challenges that they're having, which then in turn allows us to identify how best to support them with the many services available through Carer Gateway. And finally, our emergency care plans. So a resource that puts our carers' minds at ease. As a carer, they've often asked themselves what's going to happen to their loved one should something happen to them. And this care plan allows the carer to input all of the vital information and useful information about their loved one, including routines, medication, and other important info relating to their caring role, so that in an emergency it's accessible to ensure that the right care is provided to them whilst the carer is recovering from the emergency situation. So now that we've talked about Carer Gateway's amazing tools and resources to assist our carers, how do carers register?
So if you believe that you could be in a caring role or that you know someone who is, then there is a number of ways you can register. So you can start by scanning the QR code on the screen. So that will take you straight to our online referral form where you can access readily as well through the Benevolent Society website. There's also a section within our website where you have the option to request a call back, and that can be to discuss further, or you can include as well if you have any preferred days and times for that call. We at the Benevolent Society have a no wrong door policy. So even if you're unsure if you or the carer you're referring is eligible for services, we still always encourage getting in contact with us, as even if we can't necessarily directly help, we'll always have a quality conversation to refer you somewhere that can. So all you have to do is give us a call on that number on the screen, which is 1-800-422-737. And if you have any questions, then just give us a call, or if you're ready to start accessing some support.
Yeah, we really want to thank you for taking the time to be here or listening to this recording, and just want to highlight that this is the first step in setting up the young carers in your community with the support that they need to manage their caring roles and really excel in their future education and employment. So we couldn't support them without you. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, I just want to come back to this figure that Shanelle mentioned. She said in the last census that it was 2.3 million people with a disability in Australia. So that's only one type of carer support, essentially. So 2.3 million. And of those 2.3 million, 32.3% of them were getting assistance from their child. So I just did some quick maths in the background for anyone. And that is 742,900 children that are supporting a parent just with a disability. So that doesn't include those other caring responsibilities that you talked about. So supporting siblings, supporting those that might have frail or aged, or those that have mental health conditions. So I started the webinar by saying there were 235,000 young carers, but this number is like triple that, and this is just for one small amount. So it really shows how under-identified young carers are within our society. So I think that really leads into this first question that we've got in the chat, and that is how schools and teachers are trained or equipped to identify young carers and refer them for assistance to Carer Gateway or the like. Do you think that there is systems in place for teachers or people that work with children and young people to be able to identify young carers, or do you find that there's no shortage and people are coming forward?
I'm happy to jump in. I think it's something that we've noticed there can be kind of a gap sometimes, or something we really want to grow with. So we've tried in that space in different times, and I think it really depends on the school and the teachers and just their personal knowledge. So I think there's definitely a gap, because when we did a bit of in our service area, we did a run around of sending out even brochures or just, door knocking on schools being like, hey, can we have a chat with the counsellor? And through doing that, the jump that we saw in referrals was massive. So even in our really small area of a month of us just trying to, really contact schools, we saw this absolute jump in referrals we hadn't seen for a while. So it's definitely, there's growth there, and there's definitely, I don't know, Jess, do you have anything else?
Definitely agree. A main thing we hear when we do engage with the schools, because that's something we're focusing on quite heavily, because we know that's where a lot of the young carers can be identified, and that people can see that gap for them. We hear from teachers is that they know someone's in a caring role, but they don't know how to support them. They don't know what to do to help them, and they don't know where they can refer them. So that's where we come in, just trying to raise awareness that we hear that we have got the supports for the young person, and we're ready to do whatever they need to get them that assistance in place. So it's mainly just about raising that awareness with the schools and the teachers and the community that those supports are available and ready for the young person.
Yeah, we've done that in a few different ways, as well as coming out to schools, doing presentations, doing different workshops and things like that. So it's just growing that area. Yeah.
So would you say that whilst generally your service is about supporting the carer, if a school doesn't know how to connect the child up, that they could contact Carer Gateway, the teachers could contact Carer Gateway directly and just have a general conversation as well? Yeah,
definitely. And we're really open as well with, like I was saying, we're flexible and tailor the support based on the young person's need. So we do have cases where there might be a social worker or a different support worker or a teacher or any other sort of external support or stakeholder that's really invested in that family or that young person. And we can liaise back and forth with different advocates. We can sort of tailor that assistance, again, based on their need and their situation.
Yeah, so we've just got a comment in the chat that says maybe we need more advocacy to education departments about how this service is available. And I think I find that to be really true, because it was only through your presentation when I heard that you don't need to be the sole carer or the primary carer, or even living with the person you're providing care for to be defined as a carer. So, with this definition in mind, I have no doubt that there are so many people joining us in this webinar that can think of at least one young person that they know that would actually fit this criteria. We've just got a question in the chat that was asking specifically about the service and geographical limitations. So just to note that Carer Gateway is nationally funded and is something that operates Australia-wide, and it's been then auspiced by a number of various different non-government agencies. So we've got the Benevolent Society joining us today, and they're auspiced to deliver it in a small region or a certain region of Sydney, but Carers Gateway operates Australia-wide. So if you call that number, you will get diverted to your local service. So we've just got another question. So about 10 years ago, there was estimated that there were at least 1 million children 18 years and under who had a parent who had a mental illness. And there was a national initiative called the COPMI, the Children of Parents with Mental Illness, which has since been absorbed by Emerging Minds. And they're also flagging some great resources there. And I know that in New South Wales, at least, our local health districts have COPMI support coordinators who I'm sure you probably work quite closely with at Carer Gateway, because yes, a lot of those young people would be in caring roles with the COPMI. So thanks for that comment, Sophie, and the link to that resource. That's wonderful. So I've just going to go up to my other questions. So we were just talking before about how when you're not sure if a young person fits that criteria, it might be a bit uncomfortable for people to talk to the child about that circumstance. So what's the best way that they can get support to that person? Should they call Carers Gateway and get some information, or should they encourage the young person to call?
I'll jump in. We take, again, there's no right or wrong answer. So we with the referrals received in a lot of ways. So sometimes we might have the young person calling us directly. Sometimes it's a family member. Sometimes it's a referring party. Even when we do complete that carer star and have that conversation around setting up support, sometimes that conversation is had with the young person directly. Sometimes it's had with a parent, and then we sort of just touch base with the young person to get their consent and discuss moving forward. Sometimes it's done with everyone involved, like literally putting the phone on speaker and having everyone sort of contribute to the conversation. So again, there's no right or wrong answer there. We really accept referrals in any way, and we'll set up that support with whatever way the young person needs. We have even at times where we've had young people who have had an additional barrier and struggled really with the over the phone aspect. Maybe they've had past trauma with being over the phone, or there's negative experience with sort of engaging with agencies, or maybe they don't even have a phone or a way to communicate over the phone due to financial barriers. So situations like that, we've even organised where we've had a young carer coordinator go to meet the young person at the school and do a meeting together with some family or some of the school parties, or then sometimes we've had the young person and family come to the office. So again, we really tailor it based on their needs, whatever we have to do to make it work to get support in place for that young person.
Yeah, so really child-centered and
Definitely.
flexible. It's fantastic. Just one thing that I just wanted to seek some clarification on, I think it was when you were speaking, Jess, you said that it's a short-term support that you provide. Can you just a bit more detail about how short-term is short-term?
Yeah, definitely. So it depends on the need of their caring role. So typically we like to say up to 12 months. And this is where it's about that communication consistently. So when we have someone get registered, we're talking about what supports they already have in place, what's going on for them, what they need, how we can help them to set that up while we fill that gap and they work on that long-term plan. So typically when they're getting in contact with us, there's some other long-term goal like my aged care or NDIS for the care recipient, things like that. So we're liaising with them, helping them set up those long-term plans while we're supporting them in the short term. So our goal is to really sort of empower the carer where they don't need us in the long term anyway. So we're short term, but again, we'll adjust that depending on the situation, on that need of the carer and the caring role. Because we know that the caring role changes. We know that they might get in contact with us and we might help them set up supports, but then in 6 months' time, they might pick up an additional caring role, or maybe the care recipient's needs have increased, things like that. So we, again, will adapt our service based on their circumstances. So we don't really have any locked in amount of time they have to be coordinating with us. We don't really have a date where they reach out and then we have to kick them out of the program after 2 months or 3 months, anything like that. It's really based on their needs and what's going on for them.
That's great because, yeah, I know when I initially heard short term, I'm thinking, oh, okay, so this is like, oh, a 6-week program. And in this 6 weeks, you'll do this, this, and this. But it's very individualized and, again, responsive to what the young person needs, which is fantastic. So, Shanelle, you spoke about culturally safe pathways.
Yeah.
And can you provide some more details or perhaps share an experience about how you've ensured that your service is culturally safe?
Yeah, so we have also part of my role is to develop partnerships in communities. And so we have different relationships with different Aboriginal organisations that most recently we actually did an overnight workshop with an Aboriginal community organisation where we had a number of Aboriginal carers sign up to Carer Gateway, and they have since been accessing services through Carer Gateway, but still engaging with the Aboriginal service provider. So it's Carer Gateway and the Aboriginal provider working closely to still deliver a service that they feel comfortable in being in a space that they already know, but having the sorts of supports that Carer Gateway can offer, and having those mutually beneficial discussions, partnerships and community. Yeah.
Yeah, self-identification and the challenge of, that number I said before, the 742,900 that aren't recognized as a carer. And then, like you said, the cultural challenges of, it's seen as that's what you do in in First Nations families. That's how you work together. You support each other. So, yeah, it's
And
definitely.
working in the court community, it's not too dissimilar, you know. There are lots of similarities in various communities that I work with, and you know, a lot of the community you know, discussion is around it. It is, you know, seen as an obligation, whether it be a family obligation or a community obligation, is to, you know, to look out for one another.
Well, yeah, it's that society. It's the right thing to do. We're all,
Yeah.
you know, we all should be looking out for each other. But yes, when it comes to that caring role, that it can be quite isolating and have an impact on, especially for children and young people, their own well-being. So I've just got to the end of my questions. I'm having a look in the chat. I can't see any other questions. Oh, we do have someone else from a different Carer Gateway branch with us today who said that they love their job, find it very rewarding. So that's wonderful, Kylie. Thanks for joining with us today. So if anyone's got any last minute questions, we can pop them in the chat. Otherwise, we'll be getting close to wrapping up this webinar, I think. So call for last minute questions. Just make sure I haven't missed anything on my pre-prepared list or my notes that I've scribbled down during the discussion. I still just can't get over that number for children whose caring just for those with a disability being, you know, significantly higher than the identified numbers. And so when you take into consideration the other numbers, it's phenomenal. Oh, we've got a question. What do you love most about your job?
I love that question. I think I love a lot of parts of my job. I think the easiest one would be that it's really flexible. Like I get to have these really meaningful discussions. Then I get to go out in community and try and do things like this and advocate for our young carers. And then I also get to attend peaceful events with them and get to know them better and see them, get to have that break. But I think the thing that I love most is I just feel really honoured often when they are so vulnerable and will share things about their caring role with me. And it's nice to have that interaction and then just see the practical ways we can set things up. But yeah, I love that the most.
Yeah, I think mine's quite similar. I think it's how diverse our role is, how flexible we can be with the support we set up for the young person. So because of that, we can get kind of creative with what we can do for them and the growth then that we get to see in the young person. So we have a lot of young people, like the example Tara gave of Sam, where they get in touch with us and they're in quite a vulnerable state. They have quite a difficult caring role. They might have a high needs care recipient, or they might maybe they've just been thrown into the caring role very last minute, and they're not really certain how they're not managing well. And then we get to see that growth in them over all the supports we set up. And I think just seeing those little changes and even just the confidence in some of the young people when they come to our activities, from the first activity to when they come to a couple activities later and we've set up those supports, that growth in them is always just so rewarding. Yeah. What about you, Shanelle?
So a little bit like Kylie, the job satisfaction. I love that Kylie loves her job because I also love my job. But for me, I think probably the most rewarding part is because I do a lot of different events and promote Carer Gateway as a service. When I'm at events, I have people come up to me and, you know, have statements like Carer Gateway changed their lives or saved their lives and things like that. And it just, especially, it probably seems a little bit too good to be true, but I get it all the time. And it just makes me feel so good. I get carers coming up to me saying how great Carer Gateway is all the time. And so it just makes me feel great about the work that I'm doing, which I enjoy doing. And the fact that these outcomes are what they are, and that is changing people's lives for the better, it always makes me feel really good about what I'm doing. So yeah, it's so good.
That is amazing. And to be able to hear that feedback of that it's significantly impacted the young carer's life and even the family that they're supporting or the person who needs care is so we know from these numbers and everything that we've been saying that there are so many more people out there that could benefit from the support and resources that come with once they're identified as a young carer. So everyone joining us today, make sure you think you might, maybe is that person acting in a caring role. Speak up, reach out with Carer Gateway. We know that there's so many young carers out there that aren't being identified and aren't supporting or getting the formal supports. So it's really important that now we have these conversations and that we keep advocating and advancing the knowledge of who young carers are, what they're doing, and how we can support them. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing your both personal and professional stories with us today. I know that I found it very informative and valuable, and really feel like we have equipped a few people to be able to identify and support young carers with the resources that are available to them. So the recording of today's session will be available in the coming weeks on Erase's YouTube channel and our website, and we'll have the links available to that in our Erase newsletter. If you aren't already subscribed, I encourage you to subscribe, and you can find out more information about other webinars that we might have coming up and other news and events. So Erase hosts webinars to share information and promote discussions on a range of topics. We welcome the opportunity to elevate evidence and centre the voices of those with lived experience. So if your organisation would like to partner with Erase on future webinars or other initiatives, you can reach out to us via inquiries@erase.org.au, which I'm about to pop in the chat box as well. So we're now going to bring this webinar to a close. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.